Well, good morning. It's gardening season and I'm surviving. We had a late spring as usual up here, and yesterday I got my all my lettuce seeds and I grow a lot of lettuce because I like to be able to pick a salad every night when I can. Anyway, let's get to some poetry. That's what this is all about. Um, I picked three poems that I published before on Compendium, the kitchen sink, and I think these are ones that benefit from a reading. You can follow along below. You needn't watch me as I do this kind of clumsily. Uh, this first one's called Sandhill Dream. I think it's good to mention that when maybe 40 years ago, um, seeing a sandhill crane was pretty much unheard of in this part of the country, in Michigan. I remember I lived in Grand Rapids at the time, and we heard about sandhill cranes. This was probably in the late 80s. We heard that there were some sightings of sandhill cranes north of the city. So we went looking for them and didn't see them, but we heard them. We were really excited that we even heard them. Fast forward to now, a few years ago, I went up to Whitefish Point where a lot of birds cross Lake Superior, and we saw thousands of sandhill cranes. We kind of arrived at the same time that they started these huge flocks of V's in the sky of sandhill cranes across the lake. So that's been thrilling to me, that can happen. And it's kind of a positive thing. I don't know how long that'll last. I mean, it could always plunge back down. Some of the direction that we seem to be going seems to be assuring that these kind of recoveries won't last very long. But we'll see. Anyway, this is called Sandhill Dream. Now that the deep snows are gone and vernal ponds fill the swales where red willow sloughs and cedar swamp snags drink the day, and little creeks that barely sang through summer arrange their own broad librettos, now that spring winds rise and fall and night rains drum against the house, there are rings of fallen branches and boughs around every lone maple, white pine, and oak, and the last ice jumbles into coves and bays. Witness the return of the sandhill cranes, broad arrows with their rotating front runners flying high across the sky. Last night I had a dream I was a sandhill crane. I saw through a sandhill's eye, just in time for my winged race to reclaim our ancient migration above the plains, over the lakes, over disturbed and flooded terrains. I was in that procession, my saurian clan yawping in the prevailing winds above the damaged earth where the wide spaces that once held trees bled, the melt shining beneath a bleary sun. I was a crane in a tribe of cranes, recommenced by the thousands through chill currents, high above ebbing ice fields and cliffs that line the lakes. Who has a song for this dream through the primeval eye of a primordial flight? Now that the deep snows are gone and bear cubs stumble from their dens into the flashing gales when the river runs so high, so fast it takes any boathouse or other busted structure in tow, now the deep snows are gone. Now the vernal pools have risen. Now all cyclic mysteries reveal themselves once more in songs from countless little frogs ringing from midday into dark and ringing dusk into dawn, outlined by moon over these sandhill cranes. The next one's a little more difficult poem. I think it's called "A Nation of Assassins." I wrote this, boy, 10, maybe 15 years ago. Things don't change much. I think it's probably a mistake to think that this is just about the actions of our country globally. I think the whole evolution of the nation state kind of gives tacit, at least tacit permission to genocide. I think denial of genocide is a function of that, to get the people to rationalize genocide of their neighbors, of people inside their countries, back and forth across these kind of falsely drawn, often colonialized lines. Anyway, we'll go on with the poem. It's called A Nation of Assassins. A nation of assassins moves like a swarm. The failing light moves with it, a million surfaces converging. It stings everything in its path, smothers the rest. You cannot ignore the losses, the guilty snuffed out with the innocent. Like real tigers, the lone cats in their miracle sleeping inside the curtain of what is probable extinction. Children of these fierce but dying nations have little choice when the whistling explodes in their kitchens and they lose everything. Everything. They lose the future. They disappear completely. We prefer these kinds of death when compared to the lime ditches of the past, prefer dropping from our flights anyone related to the impediment of our lust for the fuel of this evil, a deadly pinwheel down into the swirls of our garbage, gyring in the deepest currents of every ocean. The bodies never surface. And we can go on to our next campaign event and declare our freedom sacrosanct in the face of small, impoverished families that have little chance of living even without this terror. The swarm consumes itself as well when it cannot find someone to incriminate. It turns on itself, mirror, mirror, because the shadow self stays hidden everywhere we look, and one death requires another. The swarm leads itself off cliffs it creates out of lies. And oh, yes, we want the poetry of songs and new lilies and the unimpeded springs where you can drink and love. But since we have made our songs dependent on the secret deaths of those we cannot know, we are lost. We disappear bit by bit as we try to disappear anyone who lives where our terror dreams live. What part of this is this little village where the remnants of a family are cast against the shards of the walls in a place where water is rare and war has lived for 30 generations? We return to the spring. I don't really need prompts. I think I'm I'm kind of confused. I don't understand this prevalence of prompt writing. I figure if you're in the world, the world should give you your prompts. I mean, it always has for me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's why I don't write very good poetry. I don't know. Maybe. This is called Spring Songs. Orioles in the shining new tree blossoms, orange flashes to a nest's hanging pouch, then to the sky again. Hands of a rising and subsiding wind wrinkle the water into wide silver and blue parentheses. I call the loon as I have learned to do, and it calls back, sudden white belly to the sun far across the water. I try again, even when its approach, barely noted, is real. It knows where I am. What use? One more. Halloo! Well, that was good enough. Have a good day. We will see you later.